Hello and welcome to our 12th episode of Talk It Out Tuesday. Hi, I'm Connie Wray, and with the holidays all around us, many of us have jumped into that celebration overdrive. We're supposed to be looking forward to the holidays and hope that this will be a time of happiness, friendliness, fellowship, and harmony. But we also know that for many people, the holidays are a very difficult and challenging time. Often our anticipation and excitement, it turns into feelings of anxiety and depression. It's commonly called holiday blues. Now you add in the COVID pandemic to the mix and the holiday blues are really hitting people harder than ever before. In this 12th episode of Talk It Out Tuesday, we're discussing holiday blues and the new billboard outreach program called You Mean More, spearheaded by Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall. You can see several of the billboards now down in Las Vegas, and we have more coming here in Northern Nevada. You can check out one on Gregg Street right now. To discuss this important topic, we're honored to be joined by Nevada Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall, and as always, from Crisis Support Services of Nevada, Executive Director Rachelle Pellissier. We'll start with you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you so much for joining us for this very important episode of Talk It Out Tuesday. I wanted to start with, what is the You Mean More Billboard Outreach Program?
Thank you for asking the question. And first off, I'm really honored to be here, and I'm humbled to be here too, because it's a real opportunity to connect with people, and we don't have so much of that these days. So I appreciate the opportunity to just chat a little bit. So You Mean More is basically a program where we have a series of billboards in the Reno Sparks area and in Las Vegas, Clark County. And those billboards are there to remind people that even just in passing, remember, you are worthy, you are worth it. You mean something to your family, to your friends, even when for me anyway, I'm always trying to make things perfect. And then of course, nothing's perfect. And so, you're disappointed in yourself, or you're disappointed in how it's working out, or it didn't go quite right. But don't forget that you are valuable here today. And that's what this program's about. So it says You Mean More, and it provides a number for people who might be struggling, because you can always pick up the phone and make a call and chat,
For some people, the holidays are a very stressful time. So these billboards have a contact number right on them that if you are struggling, if you have a family member that's struggling, whomever, you can call that number and it'll come right in to Crisis Support Services of Nevada. And we have caring, compassionate people answering the phone 24/7 to help you through whatever issues are causing you problems. So very exciting to get that information out to people so that they know where they can reach out.
I know when I'm feeling very stressed, a lot of times it's hard to articulate what it is actually that's, I tend to stack things up. So much is bothering me. And often it's on the road when you're driving that you realize that. And for me, I know that at times in my life when I'm really stressed, I'll pull over and just sit there, because I don't want to interact. I want to try to gather my thoughts. And that can be a moment when you can make a phone call.
I did want to tell you, Lieutenant Governor, that the very first time that I met you was last year. I approached you at the Governor's Tourism Summit down in Las Vegas, and we had a very intimate conversation. And I had shared with you that I had lost my daughter to suicide. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you, because these billboards mean so much to me and my family. And I feel that you understand the struggles of our community. You understand what we're all going through right now, that this is a very, very difficult time for so many people. And I can't imagine that I'm the only one that approaches you on a daily basis. And I just wanted to again say thank you. You were so welcoming. Your words were so kind. Why was this program and getting these billboards up so important to you? I'm just curious, how many other phone calls and times have you been approached by citizens in this state that have been dealing with issues.
Yeah, so I have to say that that moment, that conversation with you was a catalyst for me. I live in Reno, and in Reno, if you drive by, you'll see people have handmade signs saying, "You are worth it, be strong, uh, you matter." And I had noticed those signs, and those signs come from people who recognize that we have teenagers and young people who are committing suicide. And it's so very tragic. So I had been kind of aware of those signs and thinking about them. And I had a discussion just before I met you with the head of Veterans Affairs who mentioned that suicide amongst veterans is on the rise. So then I fly down to Vegas and we're at this event. And all of a sudden, this conversation happens with you. And I was like, wow, these things are coming quick and fast. Where I'm seeing these signs, I'm having a conversation with the head of Veterans Affairs, I'm listening to your story, which is an important one and a dear one. So the next day after I met you, I was meeting with a lobbyist, and the lobbyist happened to, I said, "Oh, so who do you represent? We're just meeting for coffee. There's no agenda." And the lobbyist says, "Oh, I represent this billboard company," and it clicked. And I thought, "Oh, really? A billboard company? That's interesting." I said, "Let me ask you something. Would you be willing to do a public service announcement for people to help prevent suicide?" And the answer was yes. And that began this. So it really was seeing these things and seeing those little signs. And I'm not someone who's an expert in this area. I don't necessarily know what are the right things to say to people. How do you make sure that you are connecting with people? But I do know that a lot of times we forget. We forget how worthy we are. We don't take care of our soul, right? We do our exercise. We try to eat right. We try to keep our brain working, but we forget about a little bit about the soul. And so I thought maybe we just need to say, "You mean something. You're worthy." And that's what began this project. So it was really you, Connie. I thank you because you were there at the right time and willing to share your story. And I think it's hard for people to share those stories. I think a lot of people feel very isolated and alone, and they don't know how to connect with other people. And so they don't say anything. But you were brave and courageous and willing to share your story with me. And so now we have these billboards. Thank you.
You were saying you may not have the answers, but it is the fact that you listened. My daughter was a veteran, and I want to do better for my community in any way possible. And I'm just so excited that these messages are going to spread hope throughout our community. And Rachelle, going back to you, I understand that these are such challenging times, but when you really start to dig into those holiday blues, I think when you say holiday blues, it's, oh, just the hustle and bustle, or this, just the stress of maybe not seeing your family, but that is amplified at this time. When you talk about not being able to see your family, it's not because, gosh, I have to work. It's because we physically are unable to visit our elderly family members at this time, and it becomes very challenging. Can you talk a little bit more to us, Rachelle, about these holiday blues and what Crisis Support Services is seeing right now on the call intake that you're receiving?
This is a time of hope. This is a time of excitement. This is a time of, like you said, seeing family and celebrating. And most of us love that time, but it's also it's a time of a lot of stress on a lot of people. And sometimes people have had a loss in their family, a loved one. We were just talking about it for you and your daughter. They've had, they broke up with a spouse or something that they've been, living with many years. They have moved into somewhere else where they don't have any family, or they don't feel like they have enough money to even buy food for their kids, let alone here we have Christmas right around the corner, or the other holidays that we all have bunched up in this time, and they don't feel like they have the wherewithal to celebrate by buying gifts for their family. That causes a tremendous amount of stress. And for some people, yes, most of us love to get together with our families, but getting together with our families can cause a lot of stress, and people kind of start stressing about that. The other thing I find is this is the darkest time of the year. We're on top of everything else, we're living in the darkest time of the year. So that too affects our moods. We've been very lucky in Nevada, or at least in northern Nevada, that we've gotten a lot of sunshine this year. But usually it's very overcast, and that that affects our moods. So even pre-COVID, this time of the year was very hard for people, built a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression around that. It increases triggers and the likelihood of drinking or overindulging in many, many different ways. And that adds it's like a vicious cycle if you think about it. And that's what holiday blues is. And we've always had that. I talk about holiday blues every December. I talk about it with the media and everyone else. This year, the holidays is compounded with almost a full year of worldwide crisis around COVID. And we already know that the acuity level of everyone's, and I mean everyone's, mental health levels is just through the roof. So when we're talking about the crisis call center, in 2019, we helped 83,000 people. It's not that in 2020, we have helped more people, although the type of calls have revolved more around COVID-19. The number of people is the same. It's just the acuity level of the people calling us. We help people to de-escalate and to get to a place where we can safety plan with them if they're feeling unsafe because of whatever mental health issue is going on. And then we give them resources to follow up to move forward. And we follow up with them to help them move forward. And if we need to, we'll send out emergency services to that person to help them in their moment of crisis. Usually we don't have to do that very often. We're usually able to de-escalate 95 to 98% of the time and get people the services just by listening. We're not clinicians, we're just well-trained listeners, and help people to get to the next step and be safe. So we're usually able to really de-escalate and take care of people without sending out emergency services. With COVID, in the last 8 months, we probably only send out emergency services to maybe 5-6 people a week, 20, 30 a month out of 83,000, if you think about 83,000 people. So we very rarely have to send them out. Well, with COVID, the people are just so, their crisis is so acute that we have had to dispatch, in the last 2 months, more than 130 times. So that shows you the increase of acuity for our callers around their mental health and just anxiety and depression and their worry about everyday life. So this year, the holiday blues are a little more acute because of what we've all been going through than we ever have before.
I think that one of the things that's so great about having a crisis call line is I think a lot of times when people are feeling a lot of strain, you may have other people in the family also feeling strain. And so you don't want to share because you don't either you don't want to burden the other person or you don't know how. And you need somewhere else to go. Because maybe your family is part of the issue that's causing a lot of stress, or maybe everyone in the family is under stress, especially if there's been a loss, right? Everyone's dealing with their own level of grief. And so the opportunity to make a phone call and chat with someone can be just what you need, right? It can be just what you need to get you through, to know that you're good, you're worthwhile, you can do this.
I would also stress that usually you're looking at individuals who might be dealing with a mental health issue. And what you're seeing right now, and what I love so much about these billboards, is that now we see people who are in crisis that were never in crisis before. We see frontline workers that are struggling because of what they're seeing on a daily basis. They're dealing with the loss of lives and dealing with families that are unable to be there. That number and those signs are also an opportunity to reach out and to let first responders, frontline workers, people that maybe had never before thought that they would need to reach out to crisis support services, just letting them know too the value that they bring to our community, and that it's okay, no matter where you are in life, no matter who you are, it's okay to reach out and to have those conversations. And I've had conversations with some of these frontline workers who, just like both of you were saying, they may not feel comfortable coming home and really opening up to their significant other or their families about what they've experienced. And now they're bottling that up. And we know that that is not good. And to drive by a sign that basically is saying, you are a part of this community, no matter who you are, where you are in life, we value you and that you matter. I think that in and of itself is an opportunity to lift up those who may not have ever thought that they would be in crisis.
Yeah, I think that's so important. It's just important for people to know that you can be a hero and still make a phone call.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier about, or the Lieutenant Governor was talking earlier about the signs she saw in people's yards. And I, of course, am one of those people who have those signs in my yard. And if I'm out in the front yard and any of my neighbors walk by, they don't know me at this point from Adam, they will all stop and say, why do you have these signs in the yard? Oh, I love those signs. You know, they all stop. No one can walk by my house without stopping and telling me what those signs mean to them as a person. And the billboards will provide the same thing as people are driving by, an affirmative message that you absolutely matter and you mean something. And that's why these billboards are so important.
I agree. I think that any person who's having a hard time, you can call and you can have a chat. And you should know that you're important, especially here in Nevada. We are a small community and we value you.
Rachelle, we should also mention who the line is for. And I think we've kind of hit that everyone can call. And I think there's oftentimes this misconception that it's the person themselves that is in crisis that should reach out to crisis support services. But as we've had this conversation, we realize you may have a family member who's concerned about a loved one. You may have a friend that you're very concerned about and you're not quite sure how to help them. And I would say that by calling that number, you're you're also the lifeline to the next person. You too have questions and concerns. You want to make sure that you're giving out the right information. So just to stress again, Rachelle, that this number is for anyone.
Absolutely. We know what you hit on right there is very important. You don't have to have a mental illness. You don't have to be suicidal in that moment. It doesn't have to be you that's having that problem. You could be a mom. You could be a dad or a loved one of someone who is struggling. You should call in to us, because at that point, when your loved one is struggling, you're in crisis. We all know, most of us are parents here. We know what that looks like when one of our kids or when our loved one is in crisis. That means we are in crisis. So the family members, the person who is struggling, everyone, you should be calling us. What we're going to do for you, whether it's you you're concerned about or it's someone else, we're going to listen, help you through what you're going through, and then maybe help you to either talk to your loved one, be able to listen more effectively for your loved one, give you resources to help your loved one, any number of things. So like you said, Connie, it's not just the person who's struggling, because mental health is a family issue. And it's the whole family that struggles when one member of that family struggles. So we're here for everyone. So I'd say to all of you in the audience, the call line's for you.
And I'm so appreciative, Lieutenant Governor, that in the messaging, it is that you're hitting everything. You mean more to your community. You mean more to your family. You mean more to even the strangers that you think that don't know you. Like you were saying, Rachelle, I think really your neighbors appreciate who you are. You may not know them as a person, but just by them walking by and having that sign in your yard, it starts a conversation. I too have those signs in my yard, and I can't tell you how many times, even just in the last few weeks, we had a UPS driver that was dropping off a package who said, I drive through this neighborhood quite a bit, and I always smile when I drive by your house. That to me made me feel so good. I have no idea who this individual is. I know that they're working so hard, and this is not only a challenging time during the holidays, but we know that so much more communication and more things are being brought to us through UPS. And it just made me feel so good that a complete stranger, that moment uplifted his day. And for him to say, I look forward to driving down this street because I can see those signs. I think that this is just a testament to how powerful these billboards are going to be. The ability to have someone just look up who's having a bad day. Maybe they had a bad day at the office, or they're upset about a situation with their children, that they can look up, and it's almost a way of saying, you can handle this. And if you can't, here's the lifeline.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think, my mother was with me for almost a year before she passed away. And so my husband and I were caregivers. And at the time, the hospice nurse was telling us how caregivers often are under a lot more stress than the person they're caring for. And I think when you're a caregiver, your whole goal is to think of the other person, and you forget that you could use a cup of coffee or a break or someone to ask how you are and someone to talk to. And I know I didn't feel like I could talk to my mom about how I felt because I was taking care of my mom. I remember the hospice nurse came in one time and she said, does your mother, your mother looks like has some pain because she has this furrowed brow. And have you noticed that? And I said, since I was born, my mother had that furrowed brow. I mean, So I think if you're a caregiver, you can also make a call, um, and chat with someone, because even though you're a hero, maybe you need time to chat too.
Rochelle, I have a question for you in regards to the individuals when they call. Can you talk to us a little bit about what a person, if you're watching this today and you realize that you are in crisis or you have a family member in crisis and you want to pick up the phone, what can they expect to hear on the other end of that line?
Well, they will get a kind, caring, empathetic person, well-trained person on the other line 24/7. What I say to people is mostly what we do is listen. I mean, and that for people with no, we listen with absolutely no judgment, no matter what your situation is. And what we find is that is so refreshing to the person who's calling, because when they talk about these subjects, mental health, emotions, there's just suicide, maybe there's so many stigmas around it that they feel like they can't talk to anyone. And we just want everyone to know that when you call us, you can absolutely talk to us, and we're going to listen, and we're going to help you to maybe get to the next step, or get to some, if you need services, get to those services that you need, and really advocate for you. That's the most important thing. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to judge you. We're just going to help you through the situation you're in that moment. And usually just that listening is so freeing to the people who call us, such a relief that they're able to talk honestly about that. So if you call us, you're going to get that caring person that's going to listen to you.
And I would also stress that it's call when you're feeling that little bit of anxiety or uncertainty, or if you're not sure how to handle a situation. Like you were both saying, it's not necessarily that you're suicidal or you are yourself depressed, but if you are having a challenge with making a decision, please know that you always have someone that is there. And oftentimes, I know for me, it's always great to have an outside source. You have all of your friends and family around you that maybe you feel as though they can open up and give you the right answer. But sometimes it's really nice to just have an outside perspective, that's someone that's not in the middle of that situation. And I would say that that is just another added bonus of crisis support services. It's just an outside perspective, a different view. Maybe you're not seeing the whole picture in a particular way, or you're so fixated on one idea or one concept. And now you have someone on the line that is saying, well, what if you were to look at it from this perspective? What if you were to find the positive? What if you were able to really approach your son or daughter that you know that are struggling? And here's some tools that we can give you to do that. I think that gives that person a sense of ease, that they then know, wow, all I needed was just a different way to look at the situation.
We want people to call us before you're in such pain that you are in crisis of dying by suicide. We want you to call us before that. It's much easier on you as the caller to call us before you get there, because we can help you before it gets to the point that maybe thinking dying by suicide is the only way you can get out of the pain you're in. So call us.
As we wrap, I just wanted to say to you, Lieutenant Governor, you mean more to me and my family for listening to us and for doing this. It is so needed right now. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to me. You truly listened to me that day. And Rachelle has been a lifesaver for me and my family this year and through our family struggles. And I just know that anyone that is watching today, you are in wonderful hands, because each and every person that is on that line is there to help you in some way. And I'm just so grateful that we have these messages that will be all over our state, letting people know that you matter more than you know. And if I were to say anything to my daughter, Katie, it would be that I hope she knew how much she mattered to our family and she was loved so much, and that this is for her. I know that I can look up at that sign and know that we're doing good for the individuals in our community that need it most. So I thank you both so very much.
You touched my heart. Thank you.
Yes, Connie, you did. And Lieutenant Governor, these billboards will save lives. So thank you so much for doing this.
That would be great.
At any moment, if you need a person to talk to, we hope you know that that number is available to you. You can contact Crisis Support Services of Nevada for support 24/7. You can call 1-800-273-8255. You can also text CARE to 839863. And you can also visit their website, which is a tremendous resource at www.cssnv.org. And please remember that Crisis Support Services of Nevada is a charitable organization helping all Nevadans and people across the nation. So please consider during the holiday seasons, if you can make a donation, you can do so at the website. Again, that's cssnv.org. And thank you so much to Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall for joining us to talk about this very important topic and to spearhead the You Mean More campaign. We know, as we've all said, that this will save lives. And we invite you to join us again for our next episode of Talk It Out Tuesday on January 19th. This is our regularly scheduled Talk It Out Tuesday. And again, to Rachelle and Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall, thank you so much for being a part of Talk It Out Tuesday.